Hey folks, David Stewart here. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. I know how you may not be having a fantastic day, besides if you are not buying these books or albums, which are swooshing by you in this rollout screen. Keep in mind you can get a free book at dbspress.com/list by joining the mailing list. You could be having a bad day if you are one of these people that watches the news, or I'll extend that and say pays attention to a lot of news on social media. Here's what I really want to dig in with this. I made this piece some years ago called Noise, and it's really about the news, how the news makes you know less and makes you feel bad. And I wanted to talk about that again in 2025 because I see it taking over again. It was kind of all-consuming by about 2017, and I think that was because the mainstream media just had this meltdown over Donald Trump getting elected and being in office, and so that's happened again. It's like this disbelief that Donald Trump could be president and that he'd actually do the things that he said that he would do or had talked about leading up to the election and afterwards. So people are very upset, and the reason they're upset is because they've been conditioned to have reactions. The news is designed to get people to feel emotion, not to make decisions. And the easiest way to think about whether or not the news is beneficial to you is to ask yourself this question. When has a news organization ever provided information of a consequential nature to you? That is, when have they provided information to you that you have used to make a serious decision in your life? And then we'll add one more qualifier. Was that the only way that you would have received that information, or would you have received it somewhere else? The most obvious thing that people might go to is like, what about something like tornado warnings? Well, we have like emergency broadcast systems in place, and your phone will beep at you if there's a tornado warning, right? There's other ways that you can get weather information, like a weather app on your phone, besides turning on CNN or turning on the local news or looking at the newspaper, right? Hopefully that's a counterexample we can kind of throw out the window. What are most news stories about? Well, they're things designed to make you feel afraid or things designed to make you feel angry. And very, very rarely are they any other kind of thing. Disgust is another good one. It's almost never something that makes you feel happy. And there's a reason for that. And that's because, there's four big emotions: sad, mad, glad, scared. Well, mad and scared are the most powerful emotions. They're the emotions that get you to act the quickest, I guess, right? They implore you to do something to resolve the emotion. When you're angry, it's like a fight or flight response. When you're angry, you fight. When you're scared, you run. And to not fight or to not run takes a tremendous amount of emotional discipline because you're fighting against natural impulses. The natural impulse when you have those feelings is to act on them. Whereas happiness is the opposite of that. If you're happy, there's nothing that needs to change. You don't need to move when you're happy. You don't need to change anything. You can just exist and be happy. So is the news going to spend a lot of time making you happy? Maybe, but not usually. Old news broadcasts used to have like a feel-good segment every night to try to get people to have some kind of positive emotion with the news. Like, tonight we'll tell you about this squirrel who skateboards. Tonight we'll tell you about this local kid who saved his cancerous sister by raising money for her surgery. They give you a feel-good story to make you feel good in there too. But that's not really what's powerful in the political realm, especially because the whole point of politics is to get people to do something. And not just do something, but also to pay attention to the news. So when you feel scared, there's two things that you would do. You can act to try to reduce the scare, to reduce the fear, or you can hope that something external will reduce it. And so what I see mostly with news is people get hooked on news, not because it gives them a dopamine hit the way social media does, but because it provokes a fear response that they then wait for the news to resolve, right? It's like, okay, this bad thing happened. Well, they watch the news all day, hoping the news will give them enough information or will show how that conflict ends so that they can feel some kind of emotional release and then not have to watch the news anymore. the people who run the news organizations are very intelligent. They know this. And so they are going to hit you with fear, and they're going to take a long time to resolve that fear. It's more important that you feel the fear so that the next time you log in, the next time you turn on the news, you will want to watch that, hoping that the thing that you're afraid of has changed. This video, by the way, just like I'm kind of remaking an older video, not completely, I have new spins on everything, and I'm going in different directions whenever I present, a return to a topic. But it's evergreen, right? This week, there were things that happened here in the United States. And the things that happened, people were very upset about. They were angry about them, or they were very scared about them. And that will be true pretty much any week that you happen to be watching this video. If you're watching it 6 months from now, 10 months from now, if you're watching it 10 years from now, you might have the same thing that's going on. And those things that people were afraid or angry about, they had no actual ability to control. So when I talk about consequential information, for instance, of the stock market is going down, okay, how are you going to react to that? Is that information that's going to cause you to do something? Some people, it causes them to do something, like they panic and sell their stocks because they're afraid of it going down further, which, if you are buying equities to hold for a long time, hoping they increase in value, selling the equities not for a profit is usually a bad idea, right? Staying in the market for a longer period of time usually yields bigger returns than getting scared that you're going to lose all the value of the equities that you have and selling them off at a loss, so that you in fact do lose the value of them and end up with cash, which you aren't going to use. So unless you need the cash, you probably shouldn't be selling your assets. This is not financial advice, right? But it's pretty basic stuff for most people. So people freaking out about the stock market going up, how are you going to act on that? You're not. You're just feeling an emotion because of something that happened. And then the next week when the stock market goes up, when everything's back in black, are you going to have a resolution of that feeling, or are you going to forget that? Because you're probably going to forget it, because that resolution is not as strong as the next fear response about something else, right? Something else about a foreign country doing something, or something else about the president saying something else that you don't like. And right now, because Trump is such a huge presence in American media, because American media is so leftist, it's really easy to just talk about Trump. But this happens on the right as well, especially with the Fox News demographic. The Fox News kind of center-right demographic. Fox News, people think it's a conservative news broadcasting thing, and it's more conservative than the others, but I don't really consider it conservative. But it's kind of center-right, let's say. So the Republican base, especially the older baby boomer Republican base, is very much in this cycle, just with a different company running it. And they are often oblivious to that. And I know this because I interact with a lot of baby boomers. I interact with a lot of retirees, and they watch a lot of Fox News. And they will tell you about something that they're excited or afraid about or angry about. Did you hear about this thing that made me angry? And I'll be like, I did not hear about that thing that made you angry. This is why I'm not angry, right? I don't need to be going through my entire day feeling angry. It's like, okay, that's great that made you angry. What are you going to do about it? And they're like, nothing, right? Did you hear about this bad judge? And it's like, I think I might have heard about him, but I didn't spend much time thinking about it. And it's like, oh man, it makes me so angry. It's like, okay, so what are you going to do about it? There's nothing you can do, right? You're trusting, you've already elected people that are hopefully going to work through that process on your behalf. Right? You're not doing anything about it. So this is always the way that they make money, the way they get people to keep tuning in so they can sell advertising revenue, the way they get people to keep clicking on their website, clicking on the stories, is to make them feel afraid. And they're hoping that if they get another piece of information, that'll resolve it. The anger is another one, right? Get them to feel angry and hoping that something will change so that the bad guy gets punished and the good guy gets rewarded, right? People are watching stories. That's why they're called news stories. And I've gone over this many times about the importance of narrative in the real world. News stories are stories. They are told just like you would tell fiction. There's a set of characters, there's a setting where the event takes place, and there's a sequence of events that helps you to construct a logical story that you can put into your memory and contextualizes all the facts. The truth is that we omit many facts when we are creating narratives because they are irrelevant or they're not, they don't help to explain the why of the story. And I've gone over before how news organizations will very often mess up the order of events. They'll intentionally place the events out of order to confuse people, to make people think that something happened before something else when it didn't happen that way, to insinuate that people were doing something for other reasons than what they did. There's a lot of little linguistic trickery that goes on in news stories. And not to make this video overlong, because I can do some more videos. I haven't done them in years at this point, but just to look at how like the New York Times, for example, will construct a news story to manipulate people's opinion about what happened. They may, in the middle of the story, just give some opinions of random people so that people will just adopt that, thinking that's the social consensus, because most people will just kind of go with what here's some people saying things. Oh, well, I should think the same as them so that I can be part of the social consensus. It's an old trick, but you'll see it all the time in news. Here's some random bystanders that we interviewed. Well, this is to give you the idea that there's a social proof, a social consensus for a position, and to get you to adopt that position publicly, even if internally you maybe don't hold that position, to think this is the way that people think, and so this is the way that I should say that I feel, right? We're social animals. We tend to want to go with the group, unless you are a weirdo like me and are just highly individualistic and also kind of contrarian about everything, right? Not everyone's like me. Most people are going to be more strategic. They're at the very least, they're going to be strategic about their use of opinions, and a deeper level, they just won't think about them. They'll just adopt and espouse whatever the social consensus is. So they do lots of little tricks like that. And I can do some other videos on how they do that. But the point is, the news doesn't really give you information that you're going to act on for the most part, right? It's really rare. You can probably, if you, there's an example that you can think of, you know what, the news told me this and it was really relevant for me. I had one relevant decision that I made based on a news story. Then yeah, let me know what it is down below, because I can't think of any in my own life. There's been sensationalist news. That's another one, like disgust, shock value, right? We get these news stories about, some famous celebrity doing something bad. Okay, well, are you going to make a decision based on that? Did you need to know that he was bad or that he was getting arrested for something? Did you need to know that he got fired? What did you need to know? Did you need to watch Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's little divorce thing? How did that change anything real in your life? Right? It might have an entertainment value because it's a story like a movie. And hey, if that's what entertains you, hey, that's what it is, right? It's just a replacement for a movie or a novel. It's the same idea, but maybe it's more exciting because you feel like there's real people there. But trust me, you're not getting the whole story, right? You're not getting anywhere close to the whole story. What you're getting is a narrative that's been packaged for you to enjoy it as a story, the same way that you would enjoy like a telenovela, okay? You're watching Johnny Depp and Amber Heard because it's your telenovela. That's great. Enjoy that. But it's not going to make you make decisions. So whenever some boomer tells you you're uninformed because you don't watch CNN or some crap like that, you're like, well, how many decisions have you made based on information you've gotten on CNN? Have you listened to Jim Cramer's stock advice on, I don't know what network he's on, but the meme is he's always wrong. You just do the opposite of him. Chances are you haven't, right? And if you're really super into trading, why would you listen to guys on MSNBC anyway? You probably wouldn't. You would know more about how to trade stocks than you would get off of that kind of thing. Anyway, right? If you see a news story about some company developing a new technology, did you buy the stock? Maybe you did. Maybe that gave you some information, or maybe you would have gotten that information elsewhere, or maybe you didn't have the money to buy that stock anyway, right? So maybe business information has a little bit in there, but I don't know. It's doubtful. I've heard a lot of traders say like, no, the newspaper provides no relevant investment information whatsoever. None. And it's like, okay, then you're just wasting your time reading newspapers. You're wasting your time watching the news. So that's my whole point. It makes you know less and it makes you feel bad. The last point I made some years ago, and I'll make it again here, is that most of the news is false. And it's not just false for the ways that I talked about, where it like presents an incorrect narrative, where it restructures true facts, it restructures the facts of the case or omits facts to make you believe an opposite conclusion. That's a fake news phenomenon, and that works very well on lots of people. But even if you have a news organization that's very honest, the facts of a story develop over time, and we have not just a 24-hour news cycle, we have like a 6-hour news cycle now. Whatever they report at the beginning, and there's always an advantage to moving first. You want to break the story. You want to be the first one to talk about the story. Whatever they report at the beginning is not really going to be true towards the end. Things change. So through no intent of their own, the news story that you read on Tuesday is not true on Friday. Different things have happened. Different things have emerged. If the stock market's down on Monday and it's not down on Friday, was the story true on Monday? Well, it's no longer true on Friday, right? Like there's a stock crash, but then the stocks are back. So it was true on Monday, but it's not really relevant on Friday, and not really true on Friday for as far as making a decision. And the same thing goes for like all kinds of cases. Sensationalist cases are the best. Like this person got accused of this bad thing, and people cement that in their mind, this narrative that this person did this bad thing, and they don't see that the guy gets acquitted in a court of law. He gets acquitted, and that just doesn't matter. People will just forget that. So all the reporting on the victim may have been false because it came out later that they were lying, right? You forget the part that, it wasn't that they were being untruthful when they reported. They were reporting things as they knew them, but new things come out, which makes the old things untrue. So a better way, if you really want to get the whole facts, would be to learn about an interesting case, an entertainment case, like a divorce between important celebrities. Just read about it after everything goes down, and then you'll get all the facts properly contextualized and the correct order of events. It'd be better to read a book about some historical event than it is to read newspapers while it's happening. But it's addictive. We want to get that next piece of information. What's going to come out in the case next? People were glued to their TVs for like the O.J. Simpson case. It was really a crazy thing in the 90s, but what were they hoping for? They were hoping like, is the next thing gonna like change what they're, this one's really gonna nail him to the wall. He's getting nailed to the wall today. He's definitely gonna how could anyone acquit him? And they're like, we're waiting for evidence that is somehow going to make him better. And then, of course, the shock when he was acquitted. All people were just really glued to their TV during that time. But did they receive any information from watching that televised courtroom drama? No information. So they didn't know. Right? They knew less and they felt bad. They're hoping for some resolution from their emotional state of fear, anger, disgust, that kind of thing. So that's what I really wanted to talk about. Leave me your thoughts down below. There's probably like a couple of things here or there that maybe you got from a news story that made you make a decision. But I'm trying to think there's very, very few that I just didn't get better information outside of the news or could have gotten it from another source. And maybe a better source. So let me know. Even then, like if you never watched the news and there was an important news story, your neighbor might tell you, hey, did you hear a hurricane's coming? Whoa, my app told me that, right? There's other sources for things. So let me know, and I'd be interested to hear your opinion. Have a great one, and I'll talk to you later.